What's going down, kinfolk? It's your boy Screwface Capone, and you are tuned into Season 2, Episode 7 of Will Talks About Games. I'm Will, and I'm going to talk about games for the next, 20 minutes to a half hour. I never know how long these things are going to be when I record them. Even when I script them, I don't know how long they're going to be. So just grab yourself something to drink, kick back for a little bit, and enjoy while I talk about games. So if you're new to the podcast, then feel free to add me to your RSS. If you're probably watching this video either on YouTube or on your podcast platform of choice. If you're watching this on YouTube, and no doubt you're seeing the unrelated game footage, that's just there for visual aid. You'll see the links to if you go to my link tree, you'll see the links to all of the platforms where I offer this podcast. So if one link isn't listed, then feel free to let me know, and I'll see if I can get it on there. But anyway, it's Friday afternoon as I record this, so hopefully this will be up Friday evening at the earliest, and maybe Saturday morning at the latest. I'm definitely thinking Friday evening. But we're going to talk about the Unity fee walkback. I know I promised that on the last edition, but of course, I talked about the Microsoft leaks. If you remember, there was they announced that install fee, but they kind of made some modifications to that. We're going to talk about that. Also, it looks like the final hurdle to Microsoft's acquisition of Activision has been cleared. We're going to talk about that. The video game voice actor strike has been approved. We'll talk about what that means. And it's layoff seasons. Some major layoffs at both Sega and Epic. And some turmoil surrounding the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake. So, let's hop right into it. Alright, so while we're on the subject of industry drama, the video game Hyenas from Sega and being developed by Total War and Alien Isolation Studio, Creative Assembly was canceled, and this was only several days after the conclusion of its open beta. So for those that don't know, Hyenas was a extraction shooter where players would compete against each other to steal loot in outer space. So according to the official Hyenas Twitter account, they issued a message saying, quote, "Hi everyone, we are so sorry to announce the end of Hyenas development before we were ever able to bring our full vision to you. While the decision to cancel the project has not been made lightly, we know that doesn't make it any easier to accept, for you or for us. We knew our plans were ambitious, and we knew we were diving headfirst in a competition with some of the greats. But we believed in the journey, and we're proud to have taken every step along the way. We hope you'll join us in remembering the action-packed Zero-G chaos and the die-hard community of players who helped us make it special. So many people have poured their hearts into this project for many years. Please be kind and considerate to them as the news sinks in. We are working hard to find new roles within the business for the incredible talent that helped put Hyenas together. Thank you for your support, the Hyenas team." And of course, Creative Assembly, it looks like layoffs are on the horizon. So they released a statement on their Twitter yesterday, and this states the following, quote, "We have made the incredibly difficult decision to begin a redundancy consultation process in some areas of our UK operations alongside any development of Hyenas. This may unfortunately result in job losses. We fully understand that this has a significant impact on our people, whether they are directly affected or not, which we are truly sorry for. We have always aimed to operate as a people-first studio. That is foundational to our values and culture. While we must go through this incredibly difficult process, we will prioritize supporting our people at every step. For those whose jobs are at risk, we will work to reallocate them into other available roles within CA wherever possible, and ultimately minimize any job losses. Our commitment to our project and players has not changed. We will deliver more incredible experiences to our players all over the world for decades to come. While this is a difficult moment across CA, we look forward to sharing more about our plans in the future. So, yeah. Unquote. So, like I said before, Creative Assembly is known for Total War and Alien Isolation, so this looks like a case of them stepping outside their comfort zone. Now, I never played the beta, and I'm not sure how well or poorly it was received, but it always sucks to see like something canceled, like especially like, well, when it comes to live services, this is probably unprecedented because this is like, I can't even say that because I was about to say like this has got to be the first time a live service game was canceled after the beta, but I know that's not true because I remember that Command and Conquer beta that came out like several years back, and that ended up being canceled too. So now Sega Sammy, they put out a statement on their website, and this might actually have some clues as to why this got canceled, but not a whole lot. So let's see. There's a notice regarding, and I'll put this in the description too so you can read it yourself. So it's a news release saying, notice regarding implementation of structural reforms in the consumer area, entertainment content's business. So let's see. There's a section that says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there's this section under cancellation of titles under development. In response to the lower profitability of the European region, we have reviewed the title portfolio of each development base in Europe, and the resulting action will be to cancel Hyenas and some unannounced titles under development. So this isn't the only one that's being shelved. Accordingly, we will implement a write-down of work in progress for titles under development. And there's another one, reduction of fixed expenses. We will implement reduction of various fixed expenses at several group companies in relevant region centered on the Creative Assembly Ltd. We expect to incur one-time expenses related to reduction of fixed expenses. We will continue to consider measures to improve profitability in European bases apart from above. We will announce the specific details and impact from them as soon as we make decision. So it looks like they're not making as much money in Europe as they should, so they're going to reevaluate their approach to that region. Still, layoffs is not a pretty thing. And on that note, looks like Epic Games, they're going to see several of its layoffs. So it looks like around 900, well, close to 900 employees, which is 16% of its workforce. The story here is that Epic CEO, or at least part of it, is that Epic CEO Tim Sweeney claims that the company is spending more money than earned. So, obviously that those Fortnite V-Bucks aren't working out for them as much as they'd like. But it looks like it's going to impact Epic's Bandcamp platform, and they're going to end up selling that off to a company called Song Trader. That's SONGTRADR. So, what is Bandcamp? I'm looking that up right now. So basically, Bandcamp is like an online platform that you can go to like buy music from independent artists. And I know like Epic Game Studio, like Epic has been buying a lot of different like companies and applications and technologies, or at least partnering with them throughout the past few years. I think a few years back, Epic had purchased some art studio, and I'm gonna look that up real quick. Purchases art application. So yeah, it was ArtStation. This was back in 2021. So, what ArtStation was, it's basically a website that hosts artist portfolios. So it's used by like a lot of game and film artists. So I guess if you're trying to advertise your work for a job in the industry, then that's where it would go. And I'm not really sure about the status of that, but I can't not imagine that some of these things that these purchases that Epic had made won't be affected by their current financial woes. But again, the real story is about over nearly 900 people who are going to be out of work. Hopefully, they'll be able to land on their feet. Speaking as someone who was recently laid off and is still trying to get back on his feet, company loyalty just is not what it's worth these days. So you got to take care of yourself first, because you could work 110% for a company, but whenever they need to cut back, or whenever the new acquisition happens or some other bullshit, you're going to be the first one that's going to be on the chopping block. So always put yourself first. Don't feel bad about taking your PTO. Don't feel bad about leaving to find a better paying position. If you got to leave early to pick up your kid, do that. Because at the end of the day, you got to look out for number one only. Now, I'm not saying company loyalty is a bad thing, but you got to make them earn that stuff. If you got to ask for it, they haven't earned it. So that's all I got to say about that. All right, so first we're going to talk about the Unity fee walkback. If you remember a few weeks ago, Unity had announced that there was going to be a fee per installation, and this fee will be based on what version of Unity you were using, whether you're using personal, professional, business, or I think enterprise it was. And there was a lot of outrage being raised about it, from both smaller and bigger developers. With several smaller developers contemplating if they were going to take their games over to another platform or even make them unavailable. So that week they promised that there was going to be some modifications. So on the 22nd, which is like a week ago, they made a number of changes to the Unity fee. Now it's going to be up to you to decide whether these changes are going to be enough. So first of all, the fee is only going to apply to future versions of the Unity runtime, starting with the 2023 LTS, which is going to launch early next year. Now, users of Unity Personal won't have to pay the fee at all, and the revenue threshold is up to $200,000 if they want you to switch to Pro. Now, what that means is, right now, if you can make and publish games using Unity Personal, but if your game brought in $100,000 or more in revenue within the past calendar year, then you had to upgrade to Unity Pro. So, thankfully, now this probably going to change for the better. So they're going to bump that up to $200,000 now. So the current threshold, now I don't have the page in front of me, but this is what I read in the news article, and that's going to be in the comments. So as for the install fee, the current threshold is going to be if you made 1 million over the last 12 months and you've had 1 million engagements. Engagements are being what they're calling installments. Now I'm not sure if this is still going to be like first install only or just each different install, but I assume it will be the first only. Now users, or rather developers, can either choose a runtime fee or a 2.5 or a 2.5% revenue share, and Unity guarantees that they'll charge whichever one's going to end up being lower. So I guess if you make 100,000, well, if you make 1 million off your game, I don't have a calculator in front of me now. Let me pull it up. So let's say you make 1 million, and you choose that So you choose that 2.5 install fee. So that's going to be 0.025. That's going to be like $25,000. So again, I don't have the current rate in front of me right now. But I did speak on it like a couple episodes ago, so you can go back and watch that. Now, they said that games on subscription services, i.e. Game Pass or Netflix games, or Sony's PlayStation Plus service, they will still have to pay the fee. Although Unity advised that studios should talk to publishers to work with Unity to come with to work with Unity to come to a mutual beneficial agreement. So I think this is going to be a big thing, because previously they announced that it would be Microsoft or whatever the platform holder who would be that would have to pay those fees. So obviously that's not going to sit very well with Microsoft. But then again, knowing the money that they're willing to spend to bring exclusive games to Game Pass, if you're listening to the last episode, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I don't see them being too pleased about that. So I think that's going to cut into a lot of profits, and I think it's still not enough to get like smaller developers to consider it. From what it looks like, though, it looks like it's going to like push toward like the larger developers. But I think even with smaller developers, they might consider switching over to Godot or Unreal, depending on whatever they need. So if you're a Unity developer, then feel free to let me know what you think. My link tree is in the description. And if you're listening to it on Spotify, at least, you can actually respond to me on there. So if you're a Unity developer, then let me know what you think. Alright, so next up, we're going to talk about the impending video game voice actor strike, and which looks even more impending as of yesterday. So let's walk it back for a little bit. So a few weeks ago, SAG-AFTRA, as I reported, they had announced that they were going to hold a vote to allow video game voice actors to strike. So what they're trying to do is they're negotiating for a better payment, and they're protesting against the use of AI voice actors in various games. And the companies that were named in this potential strike are Activision, Blind Light, Disney Character Voices, Electronic Arts, Epic Games, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac Games, Take-Two Productions, VoiceWorks Productions, and WB Games. Now, Activision, EA, and Epic, I'm not surprised. Same thing with Insomniac. Now, Formosa Interactive, that might be a lesser-known game to a lot of people. But they've worked on games. But I'm looking at their credits list on Moby Games, and they've worked on games such as the Callisto Protocol, Madden NFL 24, Creed Rise to Glory Championship Edition, Resident Evil Village, Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance. Now, Blind Light, let's see what they've worked on. I'm looking it up right now. So let's see. They're a Los Angeles-based company that provides services to the video game and TV industry. So they've recently worked on Guild Wars, Starfield, Deathloop, Fallout 76. Now, while and of course Destiny 2 Lightfall. Of course, so while these not be familiar games to a lot of people, these are some pretty big names in the industry. So this could affect a lot of upcoming games. Of course, Insomniac's on there. Well, of course, it's not going to affect Spider-Man 2, obviously. It is going to affect the upcoming Wolverine game, along with anything else that they got into work. Now, the original terms of the deal, and the deal that they were trying to work with, they had a original, the deal that they had worked on was a tentative one. It was set to expire in 2020, but it ended up being extended until November of last year. So talks had fallen through on Thursday. So it looks like now the meetings had began, and these were meetings with various gaming industry employers, and they began on Tuesday. But by Thursday, no deal had been reached. So it looks like a strike is imminent, and we're talking. And again, this is over 98% of the union's 160,000 plus members, and this is going to involve voice actors, motion capture artists, and stunt artists. So, and of course, now we know about the main strike, the Writers Guild and the Actors Guild. They recently came to an agreement. I don't know what the terms of that are, and that has thrown a monkey wrenches to a lot of movie plans going. I know a lot of Marvel movies and Disney Plus shows have been delayed because of it. So I'm not sure what's going on there as far as their deal, but this is definitely going to. I don't say like this. Now I don't see this as affecting the entire gaming industry, but there are some pretty big names that are going to get touched. Activision, WB, Electronic Arts. Of course, you got other mid-shelf developers such as maybe Embracer Group, Capcom's, your Konami's, say Namco's. I can't. Those will probably be affected for some extent, but not to the extent that a lot of bigger AAA productions are. And of course, there is the indie market, so of course you can always. So of course, that's always going to look there. And I think that's gonna put. I don't want to say put in a bigger shift for them, but I think that's gonna like bring a lot of heads toward the indie market, because I think if this does significantly affect the AAA industry, then that's where the bigger attention is going to be focused on. Of course, I don't see it as overtaking the AAA, obviously, because we're talking about smaller developers versus big corporations. But still, you got games like Among Us and Vampire Survivors coming out of nowhere, so we might get some more hits on that level. And like even looking forward to next year, you got stuff like Pal World that are coming out. That are doing things that are different. So I guess going forward, we'll see how this is going to affect video games and the gaming industry. So on the top, expect some pretty big name delays, and who knows, maybe they might do right by their employees and really, start paying their actors, start paying the people who are really in the trenches, doing the dirty work to create these games. We've been seeing a lot of unionization in the gaming industry as of late, especially with Activision and with that merger being only a few weeks away. So again, we'll see how this goes, and as always, let me know what you guys think. Alright, moving on. It looks like there are some bad vibes for the upcoming Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake. I'm not sure if I should even use the phrase upcoming at this point. Now, if you remember, it was announced back in 2021 at a PlayStation 5 showcase as a PlayStation 5 exclusive, or at least at the time PS5 exclusive. So Aspyr was working on the game, which kind of struck me as odd because Aspyr, as you know, they specialize in bringing ports of other games to. They specialize in bringing ports of older games to platforms, and this includes Star Wars games. Recently, they've been bringing a lot of ports of older Star Wars games to modern day systems: the Switch, the Xbox, and of course the PlayStation 5. So, sometime into development, it looks like that development had went towards Saber Interactive. And Saber Interactive, they're the people behind World War Z and the upcoming Space Marine 2. Now, it looks like, as of a few days ago, it looks like the trailer for the game was delisted, and various social media posts from Sony about the game were either privated or deleted. Now, according to an update, this morning, it seems that Sony said that the KOTOR remake trailer was delisted over music licensing issues. So, of course, as part of normal business, we delist assets with licensed music when the license expires. This is what they said to Kotaku in the email. However, the only music in the trailer is the main Star Wars theme, which, of course, is owned by Disney. So I'm not seeing why exactly that would be an issue, especially if this is a game that's based on a Disney property, or in this case, a Lucasfilms property. Now, there's been a lot of news about various issues at Aspyr, especially with the design of the gameplay and stuff like that. And of course, there's a troll post about apparently one of the developers not didn't like the game or whatever, which is not the case. The developer in question, I forget her name off the top, she actually joked about Yoda Adventures being her favorite Star Wars game. So it was clearly a joke, but of course you had certain so-called news sites who picked it up and ran with it. But I guess we'll learn more about what's going on as it goes on. But considering we haven't really seen much about the game since its announcement, this really doesn't have a good sign. This really isn't a good sign to it. Now, Aspire was acquired by the Embracer Group back in 2021, and of course that group has been undergoing their series of troubles. If you've listened to a few of my earlier episodes of the podcast, I think episodes 4 and 5 of season 2, then I go into detail. So I'm not really going to talk about it here, but I can easily see part of that blowback from the failed Saudi deal rolling down into this one. Now, speaking of Aspire and Star Wars, it seems like a fan of the game has recently launched a class action lawsuit over the port of Star Wars, of the Switch version of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. So let me bring that up real quick. So if you remember, sometime last year, Aspire had bought the port of had made a port of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 for the Nintendo Switch, and they promised that they advertised that the restored content would be coming to the version of the game as post-launch DLC that players could purchase. So basically when they were asked when the DLC was coming, then last summer in 2022, Aspire would state that the content will release sometime in quarter 3. However, earlier this year, Aspire would cancel plans to bring the content to the Switch. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar, when Knights of the Old Republic 2 originally launched back in 2004, then the game was basically rushed out the door and was left in an incomplete state. There are lots of bugs, and there are a lot of planned story content that was missing. Thus, the fans went back in and put the game back and basically patched the game back together, and that's how you ended up in. And basically, it's like all the stuff that was cut from the official version, but it's available as you can download it. Pretty much any PC version of the game. Matter of fact, if you get the Steam version, then it might already be baked into the game, or at the very least, you can get it from the Steam Workshop. So Aspire was going to bring this content to the Switch version of the game as post-launch DLC. Now, of course, they had ended up canceling these plans, and instead, now they never gave a reason, but instead what they offered was that a free voucher for one of the many other Star Wars games that they already put out on the system, which includes Republic Commando and Force Unleashed, or even a copy of the game for the PC via Steam. So that's the story there. Now this past July, Malachi Michelonius, and I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but this past July 8th, he filed a class action lawsuit in the state of California on behalf of himself and other customers who have been deceived by who felt they were deceived by Aspire. So the lawsuit names Aspire and Saber Interactive, and according to the lawsuit, it states that the two companies have been and will continue to be unjustly enriched by the receipt of ill-gotten gains from customers. So they said that they wouldn't have purchased Knights of the Old Republic 2 if it were not for the misrepresentations. And they continue to sell the game for above market prices. So keep in mind that the Knights of the Old Republic 2 on Switch sells for $15 currently, and on Steam you can get it for $10. So they basically want them to cease and desist selling and distributing with this false advertising. And I assume they might be looking for monetary compensation too. I don't see it mentioned in this GameSpot article though. But I'll make sure to link that to the comments. But yeah, I don't know where the law is going to side there. I'm not a legal expert, obviously. But I do think Aspyr does kind of deserve to catch the heat here. Because I know a lot of people would not have bought that game if they knew that the DLC wasn't coming. I mean, in this case, like, why not buy the original version of the game on PC? So, yeah, that's all. So that's all there is there. And of course, if you want to play the game yourself, it's a pretty great game, and it's done by Obsidian, whoever did BioWare, who did the original KOTOR R2, but it just is beloved. So, if you haven't played it and you're a Star Wars fan, then definitely check it out. Even if you aren't a Star Wars fan, it's one of those games that can appeal to all sorts of gamers. So, yeah, if you like Star Wars, do check it out. And we're going to end this tonight with some news about the impending Microsoft Activision merger. So, the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, or the CMA, has cleared the final hurdle, or what seems to be the final hurdle, for the acquisition to go down. If you remember, back in April, the CMA had initially blocked the acquisition with concerns that the merger would would lessen the competition in the cloud gaming market. So since then, of course, the US FTC tried to block the merger twice in court, and after losing that, after the FTC was unsuccessful, the Microsoft and CMA decided to go back to the drawing board and try to renegotiate terms to strike up a new deal. And this past August, it was announced that Microsoft was going to sell the streaming rights for Activision IPs and properties over to Ubisoft. So apparently that satisfied the CMA, and that addressed their previously concerned issues. So it looks like the imminent merger of Microsoft / Activision Blizzard is going to go down. So it looks like the deadline is set. The merger is set to close on or before October 18th. So unless something else goes down, it looks like it's going to be smooth sailing to there. And yeah, so looks like Microsoft Game Studios is going to get a little bit bigger. Now, I'm not too thrilled about this merger because it's just smacks of just lessening the competition. Now, of course, the big thing was, of course, making sure that Call of Duty gets to be released on other systems. In a way, though, I think that if this leads to people like Bobby Kotick being ousted at Activision, or some of the more problematic individuals when those SA allegations went down, then this might ultimately be a good thing. And at the very least, studios like Toys for Bob, Raven Studios, and all these other studios who used to make different games, but were instead swept up and forced to work on Call of Duty games, then they might be free to work on other IPs or work on new content. Of course, keep in mind that given the AAA industry these days, it's going to be a while before we see anything. Like if you remember back at the Summer Showcase, they required both Compulsion Games and In Exile, like back in, 2018 or 2019? And we're just now seeing their first Microsoft exclusive titles. So it's going to be a while before we see some of these stuff. But I guess, can you imagine, Toys for Bob wanting to develop a new Banjo and Kazooie game? Or what else? We got Raven Studios making RPGs. Or maybe they could bring back like some of Activision's older IPs, or even some of the older games that they worked on, like the Transformers games, the X-Men video games. I'm not sure about the Spider-Man because who knows how the gaming rights of that will go. But like, there's tons of IPs and there's tons of studios and there's tons of different. Of course, now Microsoft has tons of different things that they can, or they will have tons of different toys and IPs that they'll have in their bucket now, and they'll be foolish like not to capitalize on some of this stuff. So as always, let me know what you guys think. Alright, so now we're coming close to the end, so I want to top this off with my cool thing of the week. And today's cool thing of the week is Wallachia, Reign of Dracula. I know Castlevania Nocturne is on Netflix, and no doubt I'll be watching it this weekend. But if you like Castlevania, this is a game that's sort of kind of like that, except it's what if Castlevania was a run and gun shooter. It's got that extreme level of challenge. It's got that 2D side-scrolling. It almost feels like a game that you would see on the Sega Genesis. So you're playing as this young girl. You set out to stop Vlad to pass Dracula. Now there's nothing supernatural about the game. You're not fighting any monsters or demons. But if you like that Castlevania gothic horror vibe, then this is something that you're going to want to check out. So that's Wallachia, Reign of Dracula. It's available on PC, Switch, and PlayStation 4. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up for this edition of the podcast. I do hope you guys enjoyed that. That was some news items. I had to come up with something quick because I'm still going through a lot of stuff. I got some job interviews in the pipeline, and I got some other videos I'm working on the main YouTube channel. Now for the next edition, unless something major happens, we're going to have a little fun next week. Next week is going to be a what if scenario. And this is going to be, what if SNK never went out of business? Now I want you guys to think about that for a moment. Obviously SNK is still around, but that's not the SNK that started. This is a different company. You'll know what I'm talking about. Matter of fact, if you watch my King of Fighters anthology, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'll post a link to that in the description. So this is going to be, what if SNK never went out of business? So just think about that for a moment, and when I come back next week or whenever I end up doing this, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's all. Have a great weekend, and I'm Audi 51,000G, y'all.